Hi everyone, welcome back to Novel Nomad and welcome to the last Top 5 Wednesday of February. I really love the topics of this month, and like I said in my previous video, I can discuss romance until the cows come home. So if you are really interested in reading any romance genre, let me know down below and I'd love to talk about it with you. So today's topic is going to be a book babble crossover topic, and that is favourite urban fantasy. Now, the reason why this was chosen for the month of February is because many urban fantasies have very strong romance elements. And my first recommendation from this genre is going to be Magic Bites by Ilona Andrews. This follows Kate Daniels, who is a mercenary, and she's hired to do something reasonably shady, but with the recent murder of her guardian, she is drawn into a political power struggle between those of supernatural abilities and those who want to take over control. And it is absolutely fascinating, and I must admit I love Karan. You find out who he is later because he is so obnoxious but funny at the same time. It's that weird combination of obnoxious confidence, but you can't help but love him at the same time. It is really frustrating but really adorable. So next is going to be Leanne Taylor's The Daughter of Smoke and Bone. This is the first in a trilogy and I absolutely loved this when I read it. It follows Karu, who grew up being an errand runner but was raised by Brimstone, who is a wishmonger. And I believe he's not a gargoyle, there's a particular name for what he is. It's like a griffin. He's made up of many different animal parts, and he collects teeth and makes wishes, and it is absolutely thoroughly fascinating. The romance in this I wasn't a huge fan of, mainly because it didn't really capture my attention. It was very much Romeo and Juliet, which is not my favourite type, like true love, destined lovers. I like some struggle, but how this ended was utterly heartbreaking but slightly fulfilling at the same time. So I might reread this one, but it is definitely one to be on my TBR for 2018. If you have read this book or this series, let me know down below, because I want to know, is it worth going into the rest of the series, because this was such a fantastic book by itself. Next we have quite an urban fantasy classic, and that is going to be Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman has written quite a few urban fantasies, but what I particularly love about Neverwhere, it is set in London. I think it was written during the early 90s, but it follows Richard Mayhew, who gets drawn into this world underneath London and who goes through many different adventures and quests. It is a fantastic quest novel, and it definitely leaves you surprised, but the tension and like romance in this one isn't as strong, but it definitely has a romance in itself in the writing. So this one I always recommend as a great introduction into Neil Gaiman. It just has just enough fantasy and urban quirkiness to get you going into other like epics like American Gods. Next we have one that I read last year, and that is Written in Red by Anne Bishop. This is actually a really interesting take on the urban fantasy. It is set in a world where humans are still hunted. So humans are not the top predator, and all these supernatural creatures actually keep humans penned in different areas. So it is set in America, I believe. It's not technically America, but it's America that certain pockets of areas have been gifted to the humans who came over to the land. But it mainly follows Meg, who is escaping an institution, and she finds comfort in the world of the others, and this way she manages to hide amongst the others in the lakeside courtyard. There is a romance element in this, although I have to warn you, it is a slow burner and it happens over 5 books, but I definitely recommend this one. A bit of a trigger warning though for self-harm and cutting. Meg is considered a Cassandra Sang, and she actually can see the future or see prophecies when she lets blood. But this is a really interesting take on the urban fantasy where the others or the supernatural is the dominant force. And lastly is one that absolutely captured my heart, and that is going to be The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. Now, I haven't read much else of Maggie Stiefvater's, but this is one of her standalones, and it is absolutely beautiful. There is a romance in there as well, but what I absolutely love about The Scorpio Races is it follows 2 very independent and individual people as they struggle to live their life and make life easier for their family. And in particular, you follow Puck, or otherwise known as Kate Connolly, who has to take over her family's farm, but the only way she can think of raising money enough to do to assist the failing farm is to race in the Scorpio Races. And you also follow Sean Kennedy, whose father died during the Scorpio Races, and he wants to take his place, but also because one of the mystic horses, who is actually very closely related to selkies, and who are carnivorous horses, and that's the appeal of the Scorpio Races. He has a very close bond with one of them. And so it is an absolutely fascinating book, and I really enjoyed the very real relationship that developed between them. Okay, so that's the last Top 5 Wednesday of February. I'll be seeing you next month with, I'm sure, either Top 5 Wednesdays or tags. And if there are any books that you can recommend to me in the urban fantasy range, please let me know down below. I do need to expand my urban fantasy reading, as I'm more typically to pick up a high or epic fantasy rather than an urban fantasy. So I do need to expand my repertoire. So I'll see you all next time. Happy reading. Bye.